Yeah. Dr. Nayak?
Good evening.
Dr. Vaidya, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening,
Dr. Joseph.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine.
Welcome.
Namaskar,
Welcome, sir.
namaskar. Thank you.
Welcome.
Grover साहब नमस्कार.
Yeah.
कैसे हैं सर?
बढ़िया है. Logged in.
That's great. Hello Nair.
Hello. Namaskar.
Dr. Nair, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Yes, nice to see you, all of you from different parts of the country.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Maybe it may become an international event soon.
We
And sir, how are you?
We would like to join, sir.
Hello, Varier sir.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening.
Very nice to see you after a gap of.
Our sub, Dr.
Yes.
KGK Warrior is a former deputy director of NIST, Trivandrum. He has
Yes, I am.
contributed tremendously through our BRNS,
Yes, sir.
for nanomaterials and
Yeah, that's true. Coatings, surface coatings.
Good evening, Guru Sahab. Bangia here.
Yes, Pangia ji, good evening.
Dr. Joseph. Another 5 minutes.
Sir, the person to introduce the.
Yeah.
Okay, to join. I'm waiting for her to join. Bhuvaneshwari from VSSC.
Yeah, join.
She is set to join.
Okay.
That's the problem.
Is it raining in Kerala now?
Heavy rain, very heavy rain.
It is raining, yes. It is raining. Yes.
Varier sir, you look very youthful.
Good evening, Dr. Anu Gopinath.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, we can start, sir. Anu,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
get ready. Get ready.
Okay. Shall I start, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Good evening, all. So I welcome you all to today's webinar, and I request Dr. P.V. Joseph, Program Coordinator, to welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Anu Gopinath. Our respected Chairman of Webinar Committee, Dr. V.R. Nair, National President of Indian Society of Analytical Scientists, Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan, Chief Guest, Dr. R.K. Bhandari, today's speaker, Dr. R.B. Grover, sir, other ISIS leaders, members, and my dear participants. Good evening to all of you. Indian Society of Analytical Scientists is a professional organization of analytical scientists formed in 1983 with the objective of disseminating the contribution of analytical scientists to society. Every year, it conducts national and international seminars with different themes. ISIS has been conducting this webinar series since July 4th on every Saturdays, and today's webinar is the 11th in the series. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to the 11th webinar organized by ISIS. First of all, I welcome Dr. V.R. Nair, the former CGM of Indian Rare Earths, former National President of ISIS, and the Chairman of this webinar to the webinar series. Now I would like to welcome the National President of ISIS, Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan. He is a former senior scientist from BARC and an expert in total knowledge management. I welcome Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan to this function. We are very happy to inform you that today's chief guest is the former director of Variable Energy Cyclotron Center, Kolkata. With great pleasure and pride, on behalf of ISIS, I welcome our chief guest, Dr. Rakesh Kumar Bhandari, sir, to this webinar. As you all know, today's speaker is Padma Shri, Dr. R.B. Grover, sir. He is the Emeritus Professor of Homi Bhabha National Institute, Mumbai, and a member of Atomic Energy Commission. Today, he will deliver a talk on the vision of early leaders for the development of atomic energy in India. Sir, we all heartedly welcome you to the webinar. ISIS recognizes the presence of all the scientists, technologists, teachers, students, and ISIS fraternity who spared their precious time for attending this webinar. Once again, we welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you. Over to
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So now I request Dr. V.R. Nair, Chairman of this webinar committee, to offer Chairman's address.
Thank you, Anu. Here, Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan, President ISIS. Chief guest of today's webinar, Dr. R.K. Bhandari, Dr. R.B. Grover, eminent speaker of the day, Professor P.V. Joseph, Dr. Saran, members of the EC of ISIS headquarters and various ISIS chapters, eminent scientists, professors, research scholars, students, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening to all of you. This webinar series entitled Emerging Techniques, Technologies and Methodologies in Analytical Science was inaugurated on 4th of July 2020. Already 10 talks are over. Today we are having the 11th talk in this series. As informed in the last event, we are planning to conclude this webinar series with the 12th talk on September 19th. Afterwards, a new webinar series will be started. I am extremely thankful to Dr. Rakesh Kumar Bhandari for accepting our invitation to be the chief guest of today's program. Dr. Bhandari is one of the most eminent nuclear scientists in the country. He had an illustrious career. He was the director of Variable Energy Cyclotron Center of DAE at Calcutta, and he has held the position as distinguished scientist in the same institution. After completing his term as Rajaramana Fellow, the Department of Atomic Energy in 2017, Dr. Bhandari is continuing research worked at the Inter-University Accelerator Center, New Delhi, as an honorary visiting professor. Indian Society of Analytical Sciences has honored him with the ISS Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014. We are blessed to have him as our chief guest in today's program. The speaker of today's webinar is Padma Shri Dr. R.B. Grover, who is one of the topmost nuclear technologists in the world. He is the founding vice chancellor of Homi Bhabha National Institute, a member of Atomic Energy Commission, and he has been awarded Padma Shri by Government of India in the year 2014. Presently, he is emeritus professor in the home HBNI. In January 2013, the Prime Minister of India conferred on him the Lifetime Achievement Award for the year 2011 for his outstanding contributions in the field of nuclear engineering, initiative to open international civil nuclear trade, development of framework for governance of nuclear power, and human resource development. During a career spanning 4 decades, Dr. Grover has distinguished himself as an academic, research and development engineer, and science administrator. His knowledge of nuclear engineering and nuclear law has earned him the title nuclear diplomat, and he played a very key role in all steps taken by the Government of India towards opening international civil nuclear trade. He was a member of the team responsible for the success of Indo-US negotiations that culminated in the 123 agreement signed in July 2007. The topic of today's talk is vision of early leaders for the development of atomic energy in India. As we all know, Dr. Homi Jehangir Bhabha is the founder of atomic energy programs in India. The Indian nuclear program was conceived based on unique sequential 3 stages and associated technologies, essentially to aim at optimum utilization of indigenous nuclear resource profile of modest uranium and abundant thorium. Indian nuclear power program, visualized by Dr. Bhabha in early 50s, has been developed and successfully deployed by early leaders in this field from the Department of Atomic Energy, thus placing the country in elite club of countries possessing advanced nuclear technology. These early leaders drew the roadmap of nuclear power program, which brought India in the elite club of nations possessing advanced nuclear technology. The vision of early leaders contributed immensely to the development of nuclear energy in the country and taking India to the forefront of nations producing nuclear energy. Many of us are not aware of the role played by the early leaders in making India a key player in the field of nuclear energy. Dr. Grover is the most competent and experienced person in our country to enlighten us on this subject. It will be a great experience for us to listen to his talk. We look forward to his talk. Thank you all. Over to Anu.
Thank you, sir. Now I request our National President, Dr. P.P. Chandrachudan, to speak a few words.
Beloved Dr. Bhandari ji, today's chief guest, distinguished Padma Shri Dr. R.B. Grover, today's expert speaker, Dr. V.R. Nair, Professor Joseph, eminent scientists, technologists, teachers, and scholars who are attending this webinar. Our today's chief guest, Dr. R.K. Bhandari, former director of Variable Energy Cyclotron DAE at Calcutta, member of the board of BRNS and chairman of the Advanced Technology Committee of BRNS. Dr. Bhandari is an internationally acclaimed Indian expert in accelerator physics, engineering, and applications. His expertise enabled India to play leading roles in the international projects such as building of updated accelerator facilities built by GSI through FAIR in Germany, Fermi Labs in USA, CERN, which is famous for detecting the Higgs bosons, nicknamed as God particles, located in Switzerland. Dr. Bhandari also played a role in building advanced technology facilities in collaborative R&D mode with the Indian R&D and educational system, which included the largest accelerator facility in a university campus called the Microtron Center at Mangalore University. Dr. Bhandari was confirmed a DSc degree by the Mangalore University, and he is currently a Raja Ramanna Fellow of DA. We also have a very distinguished speaker today, Dr. R.B. Grover, member Atomic Energy Commission and Professor Emeritus at the Homi Bhabha National Institute, Mumbai. Former Director of Knowledge Management and International Relations Groups of BARC, Director Strategic Planning Group of DAE, Founder Vice Chancellor of the Homi Bhabha National Institute, Scientific Secretary of BRNS, etc. Form an important Dr. Grover has played an important role as an architect of Indian Atomic Energy Program in India over the past quarter century. As an Indian nuclear scientist and diplomat, Dr. Grover was a key performer in the Kakodkar-Grover duo team responsible for successful Indo-US nuclear agreement, which was a major milestone for India and in the realm of international nuclear cooperation. In the current context of our Honorable Prime Minister of India, emphasizing the necessity for Atmanirbharata, that is self-reliance and sufficiency, in the post-COVID national development scenario, it is very important and useful that Dr. Grover speaks today on the saga of evolution of atomic energy program, which is a super high performance success model for self-reliance in India. I sincerely look forward to Dr. Grover's talk with a very keen interest. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we all know that today's chief guest is Dr. R.K. Bhandari, former Director, Variable Energy Cyclotron Center, Kolkata. So with your permission, I would like to introduce Dr. Bhandari. Dr. Bhandari is an eminent accelerator as well as technologist of the country. And he was the director of the Variable Energy Cyclotron Center, VECC, R&D Center of Department of Atomic Energy until June 2012, and held the position as distinguished scientist. He has been serving on national as well as international committees related to R&D projects and academic matters. He has also been associated with several accelerator projects in USA, Germany, and Japan. And Dr. Bhandari has been the president of several professional societies, and he has a long list of publications to his credit. And after completing his tenure as Raja Ramanna Fellow of Department of Atomic Energy in 2017, he is presently associated with Inter-University Accelerator Center, IUSC, New Delhi, as honorary visiting scientist. So we are very happy to have you as the chief guest of today's webinar. And I humbly request you to inaugurate today's webinar and also to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Anu. Good evening to all of you. Learned speaker of this evening, Professor Grover, National President of ISAS, Dr. Chandrachudan, Chairman Webinar Committee, Dr. Nair, Program Coordinator, Dr. Joseph, esteemed participants of this webinar, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the ISAS to regularly conduct this series of webinars that bring highly eminent speakers and experts in contact with the ISAS community, consisting of specialists, young researchers, students, and in general, all the interested participants. In this difficult time of Corona, this endeavor is a boon for the audience to keep abreast of the latest developments in a variety of scientific and technological fields and important historical decisions and their implementation that shape the country's technological course and thus influencing the generations to come. It is this latter that we are going to hear about from our esteemed speaker today. ISAS encompasses a large sphere of scientific activities that are highly crucial for basic research, technological development, healthcare, environment, industry, forensics, procedures, etc. The scientific activities of its members are of multidisciplinary nature. and that requires very deep understanding of basic sciences and engineering. The key requirements are precision and accuracy. It's true that analytical sciences does not win Nobel Prizes, but Nobel Prizes cannot be won without analytical sciences. They are the key to the advanced technological development. Being an accelerator person myself, I would like to urge this esteemed community of analytical scientists to put some more efforts in the area of ion beam analysis. As you all know, accelerated beams offer possibilities of carrying out some rare kinds of analysis that are not possible with any other technique. It may sound weird, but accelerator mass spectrometry that you all know is a very, very important ion beam analysis technique in conjunction with other analytical techniques has helped in determining when a big supernova took place. The one which I am talking about is the supernova that took place about 5 million years ago. And it is the analytical technique, so-called accelerator mass spectrometry, in conjunction with other techniques that helped the scientists to determine that, okay, it really took place around 3 million years ago, because you were trying to, in fact, detect and count the iron-60 isotope, which is a cosmogenic isotope. And it comes to the Earth when some large cosmic events like a supernova take place. Well, I am extremely fortunate today to preside over a seminar where a personality like Professor Grover is the speaker. On a lighter side, I am going to update my CV with this achievement of myself. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrachudan, Dr. Nair, and Dr. Joseph, to give me this opportunity. Professor Grover climbed to the dizzy heights of success and yet remained extremely simple person. And I have personal experience of several decades in dealing with Professor Grover, being the atomic energy person myself. He is an institution builder of eminence and has demonstrated his capability to steer the course of important national developments. Atomic energy, to be very specific here. Already the previous speakers have elaborated about his role in the in this program, where our atomic energy took a very big turn, and he's known internationally and internationally for his contributions to the country's development in this field. He is very easily approachable, available to all, and he is going to speak about the vision of early leaders for the development of atomic energy in India. To me, he is a leader of the same class. But finally, I'm thankful to ISAS to give me this honor today, and I'm happy to inaugurate this most interesting webinar by Professor Grover. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. So now I request Dr. Bhuvaneshwari, scientist VSSC, to introduce today's speaker, Dr. R.B. Grover, Emeritus Professor, Homi Bhabha National Institute and member of Atomic Energy Commission. Over to Dr. Bhuvaneshwari.
Thank you, Dr. Anu. A very good evening to the members of ISIS, dear professors and colleagues. The brief introduction of the speaker was given by the previous speakers. It's my privilege to formally introduce today's speaker, Padma Shri Dr. Ravi B. Grover, a renowned nuclear scientist and a nuclear diplomat. Dr. Grover completed his Dr. Grover completed his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from the Delhi College of Engineering in 1970, and then joined the esteemed Bhabha Atomic Research Center as a research and development engineer. Dr. Grover obtained his PhD in Mechanical Engineering from the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru in 1982. He specializes in nuclear reactor thermal hydraulics and safety studies. He played a lead role in the conceptualization and the setting up of Homi Bhabha National Institute. Dr. Grover was the founding vice chairman and led the institute until February 2016. Few positions he held includes Director of the Knowledge Management Group and the Associate Director, Technical Coordination and International Relations Group at BARC. He has also been a president of the Indian Society of Heat and Mass Transfer. Dr. Grover is a member of the Indian Atomic Energy Commission and represents India in the ITER Council as a chair of the Indian delegation. He played a key role in the Indo-US nuclear negotiations.
You have all that
2007. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he played a key role in the Indo-US nuclear negotiations signed in 2007, opening up international civil nuclear trade with India. He had also represented BARC Training School in the World Nuclear University in 2003. His fellowship in professional bodies include Indian National Academy of Engineering, World Academy of Arts and Science. Dr. Grover is an editor of the International Journal of Nuclear Knowledge Management. He's a recipient of several alumnus awards from educational institutions and other prestigious awards. He has been awarded Padma Shri in the year 2014 and the Lifetime Achievement Award for the year 2011 by Government of India for his outstanding contributions in the field of nuclear engineering, development of framework for governance of nuclear power, and human resource development. On that note, I'd like to welcome Dr. Grover to deliver his lecture on vision of early leaders for the development of atomic energy in India as a part of our ISAS webinar series 2020. Thank you.
Good evening to all. Dr. R.K. Bhandari, Dr. Chandrachuran, Dr. Nair, Dr. Joseph, Dr. Anu Gopinath, and Dr. Bhuneshwari. I am indeed overwhelmed with the way all of you put together have introduced me, and I thank you for that. And I, frankly speaking, feeling humbled by this kind introduction. Well, I'm happy to note that ISAS is organizing this weekly webinars, and today's webinar is the 11th in the series of webinars. It's really wonderful that you are able to hold these seminars every week, and it's in this period when we are not able to meet in person. This is definitely a very good activity to keep in touch with all at the same time. Try to know more about, learn about more and more subjects. Coming to today's topic, let me tell you why I chose this topic. Recently, Current Science issued a special section to celebrate birth centenary of Vikram Sarabhai, who was the second chairman of Atomic Energy Commission. And along with Dr. Rama Srinivasan, I authored a paper for that special section of Current Science. So I thought, let me expand it to include what was done prior to his coming there, because I think his work and the work done by Dr. Bhabha, they are totally overlinked. So I chose this topic, and that is what I'm going to share with you today. So I'll start sharing my screen. I hope it has been enabled for sharing by the organizers. No. The host has to enable sharing of screen, please. Hello, it is a message to the host. Can you enable sharing of screen?
Sir, should I
Yeah, you enable sharing of screen so that I'll share it from here itself.
Do it from where?
I can do it from my side. That it will be better that it will be under my control. That possible?
Yes, sir, I shall do.
Okay. Okay. As he
Sir, PPT, can you see this? Alexa, Kanavo.
Now it's now it's scanned, sir. Now it's okay.
Okay, okay.
Can you make it full screen?
Okay, sir, I shall.
Okay. Why I will speak about this topic. First 20 years, what exactly happened? Because those first 20 years are very important with regard to the development of the program in India. Next slide, please. Yes. First 20 years, starting from 1954, Department of Atomic Energy was established in 1954. Though prior to 54, there was a committee existing with Dr. Bhabha as the chairman. As a part of CSIR, that committee was functioning, but the department came into being in 1954. And their first secretary was Dr. Homi Bhabha during 1954 to 1966. Vikram Sarabhai, 66 to 71, then Homi Setna in 72 to 83. 54 to 74 period is very, very important for study of atomic energy program, because 54 department was set up and 74 was a time when India went in for a peaceful nuclear explosion. And there's a linkage to what I'm going to say to that particular event. Homi Bhabha laid the foundation of the department. He set up Atomic Energy Establishment Trombay, which was later renamed as BARC. And I note that there are several colleagues from Department of Space who are participating till 1971. As perhaps many of you know, the Department Space activity was a part of Department of Atomic Energy. During the early years, Dr. Bhabha and his colleagues, they did a detailed study on the needs and merit of taking up R&D in atomic energy to meet the developmental needs of the country. And the results of these studies were presented by various stalwarts of that time during the first peaceful Geneva conference and second conference on peaceful uses of atomic energy. And one can have a look at those publications and what those studies tell us. Number one, that a substantial rise in the standard of living will be possible only on the basis of large-scale import of fuel or on atomic energy. What exactly this tells us that India is a country which is not rich in fuel resources. We hardly have oil deposits in the country. We do have significant coal deposits. But if we look at the fact that India is 17% of world's population, coal deposits in India are only 6%. we do have a good hydro power potential, but then again, compared to the population in our country, they are also not sufficient. So at that time, it was concluded that atomic energy is a necessity to provide good standard of living to the citizens of this country. Again, our uranium deposits are also not significant. We have amount of deposit is low, and the grade of the ore also is very poor. So this led to the decision based on studies at that time that India has to pursue a closed fuel cycle program. And by closed fuel cycle program, I think majority of you must be knowing about it, but those who do not have background in atomic energy, let me tell you that when in a once through fuel cycle, we use less than 1% of the energy potential of heavy metal, that is uranium. And if we go through a closed fuel cycle, depending upon how many cycles we go through, it can be as high as 70, 80%. Now, this pursuit of closed fuel cycle, now explaining it to general public is a difficult concept. And to do that, it was put in a very simple language. That's a 3-stage program. Everyone understands that program has to go in a matter of stages, whether he knows the science behind that or not. But this concept of stages becomes crystal clear to everyone. So scientifically, it is a closed fuel cycle program. But to convey to the public, this was conveyed as a 3-stage program. Well, I think after setting up of department in 1954, in quick succession, several developments took place. First was Apsara reactor, which is a swimming pool type reactor, becoming critical in 1956, followed by Cyrus in 1960, Purnima 1 in 1972. Research was started in physics, chemistry, chemical engineering, metallurgy, reactor engineering, electronics, technical physics, accelerators, lasers, nuclear medicine, biological sciences, nuclear agriculture, food technology, and all other related activities. Now, all these activities were going on, and based on early studies, when it was decided we'll have a closed fuel cycle program, we'll have reactors, some kind of organization structure must have discussion on that must have gone on, but there are no explicit publication available. But my guess by speaking to people is that whatever blueprint was being made at that time, it was in the mind of Dr. Bhabha. It could not be implemented by him due to his untimely demise in an air crash. Next. So after, next slide, please. After Bhabha came Dr. Sarabhai, who implemented the vision of Bhabha for the development of atomic energy in India. Of course, he was a competent person in his own right, coming from he combined scientific acumen along with industry around, because he came from an industrial family. So he knew the importance of formalizing having a formal organization structure. So after coming to the department, he really very quickly, within a few years, he created a formal structure for the department. Uranium Corporation of India Limited and Electronic Corporation of India Limited, they were incorporated as public sector enterprises in 1967. Power Projects Engineering Division, which is the forerunner of Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, which we have today. It was established in 1967. Nuclear fuel complex to set up a fuel, to fabricate fuel and other structural materials which are necessary for atomic energy program. It was set up in 1968, and Sarabhai himself was the first chairman of its board. Again, since it was decided to pursue pressurized heavy water reactor program. An organization dedicated to heavy water plant was set up in 69. It was named Heavy Water Projects, and later on it became Heavy Water Board. There was seminars to discuss about accelerators during Bhabha's time, and which was followed up subsequently. So it was decided to have variable energy cyclotron in Calcutta in 1969, and this activity was a part of BRC at that time. Later on, this has become an independent center. Reactor Research Center, later renamed as Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research, it was set up in 1971. And not only various industries and boards like Nuclear Fuel Complex and was set up, but to take care of requirement of employees, the first school run by Atomic Energy Society, it started functioning in Anushakti Nagar, Mumbai in 1969. So you can see in a span of few years, because Vikram Sarabhai did not have very long time, he was able to do all these activities. Next, please. This is what the structure of the organization looks at the moment. Bhabha R&D organization, so Bhabha Atomic Research Center, which at the time was Atomic Energy Establishment Trombay, was set up by Dr. Bhabha. Indira Gandhi Center for Atomic Research by Vikram Sarabhai. Radharmana Center for Advanced Technology came later. And VECC, the work started at that time. Atomic Minerals Division was set up much earlier, while Global Center for Nuclear Energy Partnership at Bahadurgarh near New Delhi is a recent addition. If we see public sector undertakings, then NPCIL, UCIL, and ECIL, they were set up at that time. Indian Air Earth was existing earlier, and Bhavini for fast reactor has come later. Of the three industrial organizations, two were set up during that period, and BRIT has come much later. And this is how the organization structure looks today, but I think this is something which all of you are familiar. I'll go to the next slide. One very important thing which was done at that time, when you have to carry out all these large program, which is interconnected in many ways, so one has to address management issues also and carry out various studies. So in this regard, I have spoken to various senior persons about how Dr. Sarabhai functioned during that time. They all tell me that his decision-making skills were very mature and he was a practical person. And Dr. Sarabhai set up a program analysis group in the DAE Secretariat to help the department in the process of policy formulation. And this is something which is a very important part here, to have this kind of group in a government setup. You won't see this kind of group in any department, but this is what Sarabhai did. And this has gone through several mutations, and presently what we have is a nuclear control and planning wing in the department. When I was with the department at that time, it was a strategic planning group, which later on has been converted to nuclear control and planning wing. Next, please. Now, another important activity which was done during Bhabha's time, various studies were carried out, need for atomic energy was identified, the fact that we have to pursue a closed fuel cycle, that study was done. But what Dr. Vikram Sarabhai did, he worked on a profile on atomic energy and space research. And he said, this is a profile for 1 decade, 1970 to 1980. And DAE issued a press release with regard to this profile on 25th May 1970. And these dates are very important. I'll tell you why these dates are important. So this was finalized and released on 25th May 1970. So I'm going to take contours of this program, which are listed in the profile and the press release as a starting point, and I will try to cover how far the country has been successful in achieving the vision outlined in the profile in the area of atomic energy. This profile was for both atomic energy and space, but I'll confine myself to atomic energy here. Now, if one goes to that profile or the press release, the large program is listed. It is expanding nuclear installed capacity based on thermal reactors. The word I'm using is expanding, but the Tarapur reactor had already come up in 1969. PSW Rajasthan Kota, again, one was there and two was under construction. And designing and constructing 500 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactor that was identified at that time. Completing the construction of fast breeder test reactor, it was ongoing at Kalpakkam at that time. Designing and constructing 500 megawatt prototype fast breeder reactor, augmenting heavy water production capacity, augmenting uranium mining capacity, developing uranium enrichment capacity. This is very important. Just see at that time, our capacity in science, our capacity in making industrial goods were very rudimentary. But even at that time, this challenge of developing uranium enrichment capability was taken up by the early leadership of the program. And of course, promoting application of radioisotopes. Next slide, please. I'm going to first talk about assessment of the vision with regard to development of technologies, then we'll move on to implementation of these technologies. Next, please. With regard to thermal reactor, where are we? If we see that we have pressurized heavy water reactor operating at Rawat Bhatta in Rajasthan, Kalpakkam in Tamil Nadu, Narora in UP, Kaiga in Karnataka, Kakrapar in Gujarat, and Tarapur in Maharashtra. After setting up of two reactors of 500 megawatt, 540 megawatt rating, that is Tarapur 3 and 4, there was a slowdown in building further pressurized high water reactors. The reason was a mismatch in demand and domestic supply of uranium. We were not able to mine uranium. AMD had identified deposit at several places, but because of issues related to environment clearance, acceptability to public, mining was becoming difficult. So that there was a mismatch, and the result was capacity factors of PSWRs started going down, and they came to very low value around 2008. So at that time, a two-pronged approach was launched. One, to sort of speed up exploration program in the country so that we can set up more mines and mills and increase domestic supply of uranium. And second, a diplomatic effort was launched at the international level so that guidelines of NSG are adjusted to resume international nuclear trade with India. I'll come to this aspect again towards the end of my talk. As a result, we have been able to, and we have achieved success on both these fronts with regard to this two-pronged approach. The result, we launched construction of additional reactors. First 700 megawatt pressurized heavy water reactor achieved first criticality just a few weeks back, that is on 22nd July 2020. Construction of three similar reactors, three 700 megawatt reactors is going on, and construction of 12 more reactors has been approved. And to rapidly augment nuclear installed capacity, light water reactors are being set up in addition to pressurized heavy water reactors. Next, please. So if we see what's the result of this activity, that in 2008-9, capacity factor was 50% and generation was just about 15,000 million kilowatt hours. And 50% capacity factors is a very low capacity factor, and we should be always operating at around 80%. And this capacity factor started going up once uranium was available from international market, and that started happening after relaxation of NSC guideline in September 2008. So in parallel, domestic supplies have also grown up due to opening of new mines in Jharkhand and in Andhra Pradesh, and additional projects could be approved only because of availability of uranium for fueling the reactors. Next, please. So this next slide. So this is about thermal reactors. If I summarize where we are with regard to thermal reactors, present operation capacity is a little less than 7,000 megawatt. And if we see what is under construction and approved for construction, there we have a long list. 2 reactors are under construction at Rawatbhata, Rajasthan, both of 700 megawatt. Kakrapar Unit 3 achieved first criticality on 22nd July. Unit 4 under construction. Kakrapar already has 2 units of 220 megawatt which are operating. And then additional reactors have been approved for construction, and that list is very long. Gorakhpur, Haryana, 4 reactors. Mahi Baswara, Rajasthan, 4 reactors. Kaiga, Karnataka, 2 reactors. Chutka, Madhya Pradesh, 2 reactors. Here if you see Gorakhpur, Haryana, Mahi Baswara in Rajasthan, and Chutka, Madhya Pradesh, they are greenfield sites, while other locations are existing sites where more reactors are being added. So this is with regard to the 700 megawatt reactor program. In addition, Kudankulam 1 and 2, they are already working, they were set up in collaboration with the Russian Federation, while Kudankulam 3 and 4, they are under construction, and Kudankulam 5 and 6 are approved for construction. And all the reactors at Kudankulam are of 1,000 megawatt rating. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we see, this is where the various locations are. In the north, Haryana, Gorakhpur, greenfield site, where now only we will be setting the reactor. Rajasthan, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, at Narora, which is near Aligarh, and so on, various sites in Tarapur, Maharashtra. Then we have Jaitapur in Maharashtra, another site which has been identified in Karnataka, Kaiga, Kudankulam, deep in the southern tip of India. Then near Chennai, we have Madras Atomic Power Station. And another site which has been identified is Kovada in Andhra Pradesh. And one site is there in Haripur, West Bengal, for which so far no decision about setting of reactor has been taken. And then we also site in Madhya Pradesh, that is Bhimpur. Next, please. So this was regarding reactors. In parallel, the work has been going on reprocessing of spent fuel and waste management. As I spoke earlier, if we go for once through fuel cycle, we utilize only less than 1% energy potential of heavy metal. But if we go in for reprocessing, it becomes manifold. So the profile acknowledges that production of plutonium for use in fast reactors is one of the considerations for launching PSWR's program. And India has made very good progress in developing and deploying reprocessing technologies. There's a facility in Trombay which reprocesses aluminum-clad spent fuel. There are plants at Tarapur and Kalpakkam to reprocess zircon-clad oxide fuel from PSWRs. And to further augment reprocessing capacity, an integrated nuclear recycle plant is under construction at Tarapur, and this plant will be reprocessing spent fuel which arises from PSWR. This is called integrated nuclear recycle plant because it will combine both reprocessing and waste management plants in a single unit. A very interesting development in which India is one of the very few countries in the world that when we have spent fuel, the high-level waste which arises after reprocessing, this remains radioactive for a very long time. And that radioactivity arises because of the presence of minor actinides. If one can separate minor actinides from the high-level waste, that will mean we will be able to handle the remaining high-level waste much more easily. Rather, that would not require storage for thousands of years. Storage time will be reduced to 500 years or so. So India has set up an industrial-scale demonstration plant at Tarapur for separation of minor actinides from spent fuel from thermal reactors. And this plant is quite working successfully. Technology for reprocessing spent fuel from fast reactors has been developed, and a facility for reprocessing spent fuel from PFBR is under construction at Kalpattan. Here one has to understand that spent fuel from thermal reactors, that technology was developed earlier. Thermal reactor spent fuel sees very low burn up, so it's easy to reprocess. But fast reactor spent fuel is a high burn up fuel, so its thermal load is very high that requires different kind of precautions while reprocessing that we have developed that technology as well. Next slide, please. Moving on to fast reactors, the first reprocessing plant was set up in BARC, and it was followed by setting up of FBTR Kalpakkam because it used plutonium which came from the reprocessing plant in BARC. Construction of FBTR started in collaboration with France, but India had to go it alone after India conducted a peaceful nuclear explosion in 1974. So we had formulated the profile, formulated the program in 1970. I said press release was only in 25 or in the May 1974 or May 1970, but this decision to go in for PNE was taken much later. So PNE was in 1974. So there are several things changed because of that. Fuel was changed from MOX to carbide fuel. FBTR was designed to have box fuel. It was changed to mixed carbide fuel. This delayed first criticality, but made India confident of standing on its own, because all this development were done in BARC. Profile announced by Sarabhai included 500 megawatt PFBR, and it was a challenge for engineers and scientists to design and manufacture this particular plant. Well, now those challenges have been overcome. Construction has been completed, and the reactor is under commissioning, which is taking a long time because it's a first of a kind high-tech project. As you imagine, any first of a kind high-tech project always takes a long time to complete. And the roadmap for further development of fast reactor also has been developed. We exactly know how we are going to proceed further. But first we have to commission this fast reactor, first fast reactor, know what are the challenges, and then proceed with the program further. Next, please. So coming to fuel cycle, AMD is engaged in uranium exploration. It employs latest technologies for exploration. I think many of you, being analytical scientists, know all those techniques which are being employed by AMD. India's uranium reserves are not significant. They are of low grade. And despite low grade, India is exploiting whatever uranium reserves are available. And whatever uranium we mine from India that is used for those reactors which are not under safeguards by IAEA. Exploration to locate more reserves is a continuing process. During the last 2 decades, around 2 lakh tons have been located, and total reserves now stand at about 3 lakh tons of U3O8. Mines are now working in Jadugoda region of Jharkhand and Tumlapalle in Andhra Pradesh, and more mines are planned. And fuel is fabricated in nuclear fuel complex, and a facility for enrichment of uranium based on gas centrifuge process has been set up, necessity for which was identified in the profile. And this was a real R&D challenge for a genius in BARC. Next, please. Research for developing heavy water production technologies was started in early 1960s, right from the beginning when BRC was set up. The first plant was set up in Nangal. It uses electrolysis of heavy water and liquid hydrogen, and this worked for several years and has recently been closed. At present, we have 6 heavy water production plants which are operating. 2 are based on S2O exchange process. They are large plants based on indigenous technologies, and remaining are based on ammonia hydrogen exchange process. S2S H2O exchange process is quite successful, and we can set up as many plants based on this process as are needed for our program. Now, high water production process is an energy intensive process. So therefore, current focus of heavy water board is to reduce specific energy consumption. India is now the largest producer of heavy water at the global level. There is sufficient heavy water in stock to feed upcoming PSWRs, and if needed, the program, if decision is taken to enlarge the program, one can set up more plants. Technology is fully under our control. Heavy water is also being exported for requirements because it has application in pharmaceutical industry. Next, please. The radioisotopes make an important contribution to economy. They are necessary for well-being of citizens, whether it's their application to healthcare, application to agriculture, application to industry, application to research. And the profile calls for developing a plan for such applications. And here it's interesting to note which surveys have been done in United States, South Korea, in some other countries to compare relative contribution to economy of a country. On the one side, we have nuclear power. On the other side, we have application of radioisotopes. It may come as a surprise to many of you that contribution to GDP based on applications of radioisotopes is as large as that of nuclear energy. Manpower requirement also is as large, so many people get employment because of these radioisotope applications. Because there are several of these activities distributed across the country at several locations, both contribution to GDP and contribution to providing employment is very, very large by applications of radioisotopes. So these technologies are being developed, and a separate organization, BRIT, Board of Radiation and Isotope Technologies, was set up in 1989 for marketing of radioisotopes, radiopharmaceuticals, and radiation technology equipment. BRIT works in close cooperation with BARC, where radioisotopes are produced, and the current situation is that India is not able to meet the requirement of radioisotopes in the country, and many radioisotopes are being imported. Now, plan is to go in for a specific reactor for production of radioisotopes, and this is, if those of you have followed the recent press conference of Finance Minister, she announced it on 15th May 2020 that additional research reactor will be set up in triple P mode to provide more radioisotopes, which currently we are operating. Another application of radioisotopes is in the nuclear agriculture. High varieties of oilseed and pulses have been produced by BARC based on research which they have done within BARC, and also in collaboration with various agricultural universities spread across the country. And those are definitely giving results. But looking at the time, I will not go into those details. I will proceed further. Now, next slide, please. So now I come to program implementation. Next, please. One of the first requirement of program implementation is that we have to have manpower to implement the program. And this is another activity where several steps have been taken very successfully. Need for trained manpower was recognized right in the beginning of the program. A training school was set up at a part of BARC. BARC also started the doctoral program where employees working in BARC could register with various universities and get a PhD. Some students were also taken. The same situation prevailed in other R&D centers of DAE. They were having doctoral students. In 2005, combining all these prior initiatives, a Homi Bhabha National Institute, which is a deemed university, was set up within BARC, within DAE. Homi Bhabha National Institute runs its academic program at 11 constituent institutions of DAE, that is BARC, IGCAR, RRCAT, BECC, IOP, IMSC, HRI, TMC, NICER, and so on. I hope I have listed all the 11 total institutes. In parallel, TIFR also has become a deemed university. All this setting up of HBNI and TIFR, they happened within 1 year of each other. The programs which were there earlier in BARC Training School, they have been now accredited by HBNI. Engineers do a project of 1 year after 1 year of coursework, and that becomes makes them eligible for MTech program. And for doctoral program, the coursework, which these days is an essential component, that also is done in training school in BARC and similar training schools in IGCAR, BECC, and RRCAT. Training schools is now essentially running like a graduate school of a university. Doctoral programs at R&D centers and grant-related institutions have also been expanded, and expansion has also taken place a lot in the postgraduate medical program being run at TMC. TMC runs PG programs as well as super specialty program. After setting up of HBNI, those programs have expanded manyfold. The result is HBNI has received a good ranking by NIRF. In the latest ranking, it was 14. If you think that it was started academic program only 15 years ago, in 15 years, it has come to 14th rank. And it is also ranked very high in Nature Index. In addition to these two deemed universities, NPCIL has training centers at all its sites. They are called nuclear training centers, and they are equipped with the full scope replica simulators for training control personnel, and engineers, supervisors, plant operators, and maintenance technicians are all trained at NTCs. All of you may be knowing that Atomic Energy Regulatory Board has requirement that all the people, all the personnel who work in NPCIL, various nuclear power plants, they have to have a requisite qualification, and that training for having that qualification is provided by these nuclear training centers, which are there at all the 7 sites of NPCIL. Next, please. Now, with regard to implementation, this is something which is very important now. When all the technology has been developed, how are we implementing the program? When the profile was formulated, India was benefiting from international cooperation. And in 1970, the technology control regimes in nuclear arena, they had not yet evolved. Nobody talked about technology control regimes. But this started changing with the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons coming into force in March 1970. This treaty mandated setting up of a committee to implement export control in accordance with various articles of the treaty. And this committee, Zenger Committee, functioned during 1971, 1974, came up with a list of items which were controlled and which were not to be supplied to those people who have not signed NPT. And because of geopolitical situation around our country, India decided to go in for a peaceful nuclear explosion in 1974. The result was a nuclear suppliers group, which is an informal group of suppliers country that came into being immediately after 1974. It was first called the London Club and later on renamed as Nuclear Supplier Group, that is NSG. The result was international cooperation came to a complete halt. NSG became very active after 1992 because till 1992 it was controlling only nuclear items. After 92, it started including dual-use item also under its guidelines. So while implementing the program, this new reality had to be factored in after mid-1970s. This situation started evolving in March 1970 after NPT came into force, and after 1974, situation tightened further, and this was a new reality which was not known to the early leaders when they drafted the profile in 1970. Result was India had to follow an autarkic path, a lonely path is since then we have been following. Despite following a lonely path, India has developed technologies for building pressurized heavy water reactors, heavy water production, fuel fabrication, spent fuel reprocessing, waste management, actinide partitioning, and other technologies on a very broad front. And here our industry is also helping. Next slide, please. Our industry is also helping us. They have come up quite a bit. Design, development, construction, everything was a challenge from mid-1974 onwards, and this has been overcome by working in close cooperation with industry, and it has raised the level of industry and given confidence to NPCIL to launch a large construction program. With regard to uranium, as I said earlier, two-pronged approach was launched after nuclear tests in 1998. PNA in 1974 and nuclear tests were in 1998, and after that we knew that situation is going to tighten very badly, so intensified uranium exploration in the country and also launched a diplomatic effort to get access to international supplies. We have achieved success on both the fronts. More mines have been opened and uranium is also being imported. The result is our plants are operating at high capacity factors, which I had shown in the table earlier, and we also have been able to launch construction of many 700 megawatt reactors. Prior to 98, we had agreement with Russia only for construction of 2 reactors, and after the clearance by NSC, after the relaxation of guidelines of NSC in 2008, we have signed agreement with Russia to construct 4 more reactors, and the roadmap also has been signed to construct 6 more 1200 megawatt reactors at a new site. And now India has to expedite construction of more nuclear reactors which have been already approved. Next, please. Often it is said that why we need nuclear power in the country. many people say that renewable energy like solar, wind, hydro, they can take care of this particular India's energy requirement. On that, I would like to speak that nuclear energy is very much required for India. If you see this particular plot, we have on y-axis human development index, which is a composite index and includes 3 dimensions, that is health as expressed in terms of life expectancy, education, that is how many years of schooling, both and living standards, which is per capita GDP. As these 3 particular indices are combined, or these 3 dimensions are combined to get this human development index. On the x-axis is per capita per annum electricity consumption. If you see, as per capita per annum electricity consumption rises, HDI rises, and after about 5,000, you see a saturation effect. After that, there is not any much increase. There are a few points which are outliers. One is Iceland, who have because being a very cold country, they have a very large electricity consumption. But if you see around India, then around 5,000 per capita per annum is what we need to have a HDI of 0.9, which is really considered a good human development index. Next slide, please. Now, if we see around us, Singapore per capita electricity consumption is 9,219, Malaysia 4,808, Thailand 2,868, and world average is 3,152. Now, Malaysia, Thailand, these are countries in a climatic zone which is similar to ours. I'm not comparing with country in the tropical region. These are countries in the, I'm not comparing country in the temperate climate. These are the country in tropical climate which is comparable to ours. So India cannot be different. Earlier, we have seen that if we have a per capita annual consumption of 5,000, one can have a high enough HDI. So if we let us think that we will aim at a per capita annual consumption of 5,000, India's population is expected to stabilize at 1.6 billion, and transmission and distribution losses, minimum technically achievable is 7%. Currently, India has around somewhere between 18 to 20%, but 7% is feasible. So if we have this norm, 5,000 per capita consumption, 1.6 billion people, and 7% T&D losses, what India needs is 8,600 billion kilowatt hour. Generation in 2018-19 was 1,600 billion units. 1,250 came from utilities, 125 from renewables, and about 225 from non-utilities. And per capita generation was 1,230. If we assume a population of 1.3 billion, we have little more than 1.3 billion, but one can, just for the sake of argument, take it at 1,230. So India has to move from 1,600 billion units to 8,600 billion units in terms of total electricity generation, and in terms of per capita from 1,230 to 5,000. Now, what is the total potential of hydro, wind, and solar? Hydro generated 137 billion unit in 2018-19. In 1920, it was a little more. And there is additional potential which we must exploit. Solar total potential is 770 gigawatt. Wind total potential as estimated by government is 302 gigawatts. This, of course, is at the present level of technology. There will be some minor increase subsequently. And if we assume solar and wind to operate at 20%, that is what their normal capacity factor is, the total which they can generate is 1,840 billion units. The current generation is 225 only, but their total potential is 1,840. So hydro and solar and wind combined, they cannot give you more than about 2,000, maybe 2,100, 2,200. But our requirement to give a decent standard of living to the citizen is 8,600. So conclusion is that renewable sources alone are not enough to meet the demand of electricity in India, and the rest has to come from nuclear and coal. Next slide, please. And here we have to recall that we cannot compare ourselves to countries like Brazil and Argentina and even USA, where density of population is very low. India's density of population is 360 or 370. Those countries have density of population in 2 digits. Even Europe has around 100. Our requirements, our situation is totally different. And there is one more parameter which we have to keep in mind, which is not talked about much by industry, but the last 10 years, a lot of research has been done on this topic. Earlier research was sporadic, but this research has been intensified in the last 10 years. There's a parameter called energy return on energy invested, or energy return on invested. For any source, we have energy out, you have energy in. To pump oil from a petroleum well, you have to first give some energy to the pump, then only it will pump oil out of that. This ratio is E out by E in, and this is known as EROI. If you assume E out equal to 100, to gain to society is E out minus E in. These are the equations which I have written there. So assume E out 100, assume various values of EROI, and then one can calculate what is the gain to society. Since E out is 100, gain will be in percentage term. Y-axis is percentage E out, x-axis is EROI, so the scale is reverse. Origin is EROI is 50, then it decreases and moves to 0. You may notice that gain to society falls rapidly as EROI decreases. So long EROI is above about 6 to 7, it doesn't matter whether you are 6, 7 or 9, 8 or 10, 11 or 15, 16. But the moment you go below about 5 to 6, there's a rapid fall in the energy which is available for society. And this factor has to be accounted for when we plan our mix of sources for electricity generation. Whatever research has been done so far, one thing which is clear that oil, coal, nuclear, large hydro, and wind, they have high EROI. There are some discrepancies in numbers because of various assumptions which are being used by researchers. But conclusion is solar has a lower EROI. Biomass has a very poor EROI, even lower than solar. Next, please. So this tells us that sustainability consideration also has to be taken care of. Whenever people talk about nuclear power, they are concerned about military uses of nuclear. Yes, civilian nuclear technology has military ancestors. It continues to have military linkage. There is something which we know and we have to accept. So there are security and non-proliferation concerns associated with different stages of nuclear energy production. So one has to implement issues of safety and security in a very meticulous manner. And for nuclear energy production, there are issues which are associated, which have to be examined as safety, security, resilience, environment effect, resource durability, economic viability of technology, including EROI. But when one talks about sustainability, people only talk about resource durability and certain select aspects of environment. These two only alone, they don't determine sustainability. If you look at all these issues together, yes or no is not an answer. for any technology. There are pros and cons of all technologies. So essentially, we need a mix of all low carbon technologies to power our electricity mix, that is nuclear, solar, wind, hydro, and I will say even coal till nuclear is able to rise to that level where we can replace coal totally. But of course, coal has to be implemented with pollution abatement measures like flue gas desulfurization, uh, flue gas filtration, and so on. And whenever carbon capture and utilization technologies are available, whenever they are developed, they also have to be implemented. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer questions. Next, you can go to next slide. I think it is thank you. Yes.
Let me stop sharing, sir.
Yes, you stop sharing and let me see now questions if there are any. I see in the chat box there is one question. Where can a banker get, number one, detailed project report for proposed projects involved in atomic energy? Two, contact of entrepreneurs interested to set up units for development of atomic energy. Regards, V. Balaji Rao, Bhopal. Then one question, can India follow the path of generation 4 reactors? Okay, let me answer these questions. Yes, as far as the power reactors are concerned, their Atomic Energy Act does not allow private entrepreneurs to come in. It has to be a government company only. By government company means that 51% share has to be with the government. But for setting up radiation irradiation plants, one can definitely set up plants. And for that, contact detail is Head Technology and Transfer Division, BARC. He can be contacted. You can get further information on this issue from the website of Bhabha Atomic Research Center. Then second question, can India follow the path of generation 4 reactors? Yes, we should follow that path, and for that research is being done within BARC. And also we must see that under generation 4, 6 different concepts have been proposed by those people who are participating in Generation 4 initiative. And out of those 6 concepts, I think 4.5 concepts are based on closed fuel cycle. India has been following closed fuel cycle right at the beginning, and the fast reactor will ultimately evolve into Generation 4 reactors. Then what's the current stage of 3-stage nuclear power program? First stage is in the industrial domain. The prototype fast breeder reactor, which will be the harbinger for the second stage, is under commissioning. And the third stage will come later. Then fusion technology, what role was envisaged in 1970 paper? Well, fusion technology at that time, the profile did not include anything related to fusion technology. But at the same time, knowing the vision of a person like Vikram Sarabhai, he started thinking of developing physical research laboratory Ahmedabad, which at that time was a part of Department of Atomic Energy. It was a combined department. Set up a nucleus to start research on fusion technology, and that program blossomed there. And after blossoming, became an independent unit, Institute for Plasma Research, which was set up by DST, and subsequently it was taken over by, became part of DAE, I think in 98 or so. And now it is a part of DAE where fusion work was going on. But seed of this program of fusion was laid during Vikram Sarabhai time, around 68 or 69. He started that fusion group in plasma, fusion plasma research group in PRL, Ahmedabad. Then there's a question, sir. You said EROI is too low in solar, but it is safe and cost effective in comparison to atomic. Secondly, atomic is fraught with possible high risk due to radiation leakage. How to address this? Okay. Atomic energy, safety of atomic energy, that how you look at the safety, this is what one has to see. The data with regard to the two ways, fatalities and long-term effect. Data with regard to fatalities from various technology options which occur anywhere in the world, they are being compiled by various research groups, and this data is stored at Paul Scherrer Institute in Switzerland. They release it periodically in terms of deaths per kilowatt hour of electricity generated. And as per their data, which they have reported, have been reporting for a long time, the death fatalities per kilowatt hour of electricity generated is low for nuclear. It is for solar, it is higher than nuclear, essentially because for rooftop installation, there have been many deaths of workmen when they are installing solar panel, and many issues related to disposal of solar. We are yet to see how those developments will happen. With regard to cost, this is something which one has to remember, that the cost of electricity can be considered at the generator end or at the consumer end. And between the generator and the consumer is a transmission and distribution network. Because of intermittency of solar and wind, they impose a very heavy cost as far as the consumer is concerned. Data is available with regard to in the literature for other countries where they have calculated this effect. With regard to India, the previous Chief Economic Advisor released a report, I think it was in August 17, that the unaccounted cost for renewable energy is as high as 11 rupees per unit, and I don't think data has changed. This is coming as a unseen subsidy, and this you can download this economic survey volume 2 2017, and there you will see this particular data with regard to the unseen cost of solar and wind. What is thermal freeze? No, I do not know this. So what is meant by thermal freeze? I have this question. What is the status of fast breeder reactors? Well, as already said, that a test reactor has been in operation since mid-80s, and the prototype reactor of 500 megawatt rating has been constructed and is under commissioning. Sir, will thorium be continued to use in FBR with its difficulty in reprocessing? Well, at laboratory level, reprocessing has been done. We have to scale it up to industrial scale. Present status of advanced reactor, when can be these operational? Worldwide research is going on in generation 4 reactors, and it will take time before they can go into operation. I think I have answered all the questions in the chat box. If there is anything, or if it's
if there are questions, I request Dr. to announce about the next topic in the series.
This is Chandrajudan. Thank you for a very marvelous recount of the enormity of the task undertaken by the department and revealing all the intricacies and in the path of self-reliance. I think this excellent model will be very much useful when India has to face the problems associated with Atmanirbhar Bharat, which our country is planning in the post-COVID era. Thank you very much for a very nice, very informative talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And okay. Thank you all.
Sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Dr.
you very
Grover,
much.
very good talk. Thank you. Karke
Thank you,
rahiye.
sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
It's a
Kakara.
very, very
Thank
nice
you very
time.
much for joining us. Thank you very much, sir. Good night.
Thank you. And good
Wonderful
night.
talk. We are highly delighted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very big round of
Thank
applause.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Grover.
Thank you, sir.
Very
Thank you,
informative.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Early leaders for development of
Thank you.
in India.
We had opportunities again. Again, I got the opportunity of hearing you, sir. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Now, you have two announcements. The link for submitting feedback is given in the chat box. You can use it. The link will be available in the WhatsApp group ISIS WS also. I am very happy to inform you that speaker for next week is Dr. B. Vijaykumar. He is the officer in charge of Environmental Survey Laboratory, Kudankulam. He will talk on nuclear power for clean, green, and sustainable energy security. We invite all of you to next webinar also. Thank you. Over to Dr. Anu Gopinath.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I request Dr. Deepti L. Shivadas, scientist, VSSC, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Anu. Honorable National President ISAS, Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan, Chairman Webinar Committee, Dr. V.R. Nair, Chief Guest, Dr. R.K. Bhandari, Speaker, Dr. R.B. Grover, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great privilege to propose vote of thanks. First of all, I thank Dr. P.P. Chandrajudan for the presidential address and Dr. V.R. Nair for chairing the session. Thank you, sir. I, on behalf of ISAS and on my behalf, thank guest of honor, Dr. R.K. Bhandari, former Director, Variable Energy Cyclotron Center, Kolkata, for inaugurating the webinar and for encouraging analytical scientists and for being with us today. Thank you, sir. I also would like to express my deep sense of gratitude to the speaker, Padma Shri Dr. R.B. Grover, Emeritus Professor, Homi Bhabha National Institute, for the wonderful talk on vision of early leaders for the development of atomic energy in India. Thank you, sir, for sharing with us the history of the development of atomic energy in India and the struggles our pioneers have gone through in the initial phase to make India a powerful atomic energy establishment. Thank you once again, sir, for detailing India's current achievement and development in nuclear energy field. And once again, I thank you for your detailed response to audience query. Thank you, sir. A special mention to Dr. P.V. Joseph, a vibrant program coordinator, for arranging this webinar, and of course, Dr. Anu Gopinath for comparing the whole series. Finally, I thank all members of ISAS and the participants for sparing your valuable time for ISAS webinar. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Grover. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
For a wonderful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cesar also, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Bhandari Sahab. Thank you. After a long gap, I'm seeing you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Yamuna.
Nice.
Yamuna Singh,
Nice to
Doctor.
see you. Nice to see you.
Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Jamna Singh.
Okay.
Okay.
Arun Kumar sir, good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Dr. Zain, good
Okay,
night.
Joseph. Mr. Chandrachudan, Dr. Nair.
Raj Nair,
Nandu,
sir.
Thank you. Good night.
Namaste.
Bhandari sir, good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Sir. Good night, sir.
Good night.
Good night,
sir.
everybody.
Sir, good night.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, sir.
Good
Good night, everybody.
Sarin sir, good night.
Good night.
sir.
Oh.
Joseph, good night.
Dr. Joseph,
Sir,
good
good
night.
night.
Sir, good night, sir.
Vijay Lakshmi ji, namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, Shesha.
Okay, sir. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye. We'll be meeting next week.
Dr. Nair, good night.
Sure, sure.
Okay, sir. Chandrachudan, namaste.
Yeah, namaste, namaste. See you. See you. So good night to all. See you.
Good night. Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Sir, let me close this.